Welcome to our channel. Pete Alonso is officially back. Here's what David Stearns says about New York Mets star's return. Port St. Lucie, Florida. Mets fans will receive their long-awaited reunion with Pete Alonso in Port St. Lucie next week. With 5 days until the Mets hold their first full-squad spring workout in Port St. Lucie, Alonso passed his physical and the team announced that they had re-signed the four-time All-Star to a 2-year deal on Wednesday. With that, Mets president of baseball operations David Stearns could finally address what it took to get a deal done and the impact that Alonso can have in a lineup now headlined by Juan Soto. "I think both parties wanted to get it done, and that's a really good foundation for a deal," Stearns said. "We're thrilled to have Pete back. I think Pete is thrilled to be back. He was here briefly the other day for his physical. You could see the genuine excitement that he had to be back in this building. And we're really happy we were able to make it happen. Need a break? Play the USA Today Daily Crossword Puzzle." Alonso, who is second in Major League Baseball with 226 home runs since 2019, was one of the final premier free agents on the market before a deal was reached last week. The negotiations took some winding turns. Pete Alonso's bumpy path back to the Mets. It began slowly before some doubt crept in as the Mets made sizable moves in re-signing Jesse Winker and landing A.J. Minter in deals in January after the first base market had been set. The team's payroll inched toward $300 million and Mark Vientos and Brett Baty both began taking infield practice at first base in a contingency for Alonso's potential departure. In a panel in front of Mets fans at a Mason Day on January 25th at Citi Field, owner Steve Cohen voiced his displeasure with the nature of the negotiations. "At times during negotiations, you're going to have disagreements, and we were at a point in the negotiation where there was a pretty significant disagreement about what we were looking at, and Steve expressed that," Stearns said. "But we kept working at it, and they kept working at it, and ultimately we got to a good spot." Ultimately, the Mets front office and Alonso, along with his agent, Scott Boras, were able to come to a resolution, in part after meeting in Tampa, Florida, earlier this month. And now, with Alonso back in the fold, Stearns and the front office feel like they have taken a step forward as an organization and the tools to compete with the Phillies and Braves at the top of the National League East. "There's no question he makes us a better team," Stearns said. "We're in a spot where we feel like we've got a really good team. We're trying to win as many games as possible. He makes us better." There is still a chance that the Mets could be in a similar spot with Alonso next season, given the nature of his agreement. The contract includes $30 million in the first year and a $24 million player option for the second. That provides some extra incentive for Alonso to perform well. The first baseman closed with career lows in home runs, 34, and RBI, 88, including a .240/.329/.459/ line across a full season in 2024. "He's a very motivated player to have an elite Pete Alonso season," Stearns said. "And I expect we're going to see that. I think he's very confident in his abilities, and I'm excited to watch him." The 2024 campaign was the first full season that Alonso did not provide an OPS better than .820. Stearns said he did not have the impression that the weight of Alonso entering free agency for the first time in his career impacted his performance. And he's not worried about the implications of another potential walk year for Alonso. "Certainly this is a player who has repeatedly proven that in big moments he can play under pressure," Stearns said. "He's played in New York his entire career and handled the pressure. That, for me, is not of concern at all." With Alonso back in the fold, and following the re-signing of Ryan Stanek in late January, the Mets find their payroll at about $331 million, according to Fangraphs, as they leapt into the top tier of the luxury tax threshold. Stearns said the current roster construction was among the higher-priced scenarios that the team outlined heading into the offseason. "I don't think as an organization we want to remain consistently this high, but in this offseason, given the opportunities that were in front of us, we had tremendous ownership support to get there, and I'm really grateful for that," Stearns said. Alonso's return seals one possible path of entry for the next class of prospects, with Vientos now stationed back at third base. Stearns said Alonso's return should create a little more competitions during camp and later confirmed that Jose Iglesias is unlikely to return in 2025 as a way to keep opportunities available down the roster.